that, so we've got the Cybex hack. I go as far as saying it's the worst hack squat there is out there, but also the best at the same time. But it's really important that you get this one right, because if you don't get this one right, then it will probably snap you when you get to the bottom and you're not going to be in a bit of a safe position. So let's start on the actual setup. So there's numerous different, this is a tough one to explain because there's so many different ways to look at this. I've seen so many different ways of people using it in terms of feet position and hand, but what we'll do is, main one is hands on the handles. That's really easy because what that does, it'll drive into elbow, drive into the shoulder, and it'll keep your back pinned against that, so it's going to lock your upper body in nice and tight. The other way that we see people doing it, and I think Harry actually does this himself, it goes for a cross arm position. The reason for that is, again, you can keep your shoulders pinned, but also it's about keeping your core as controlled as possible. That is, in my opinion, core control on this is the make or break to it. So what we've got with this point, so we'll just show the way we'll probably tell people to use hands onto the handles. Right, what we want to make sure with this point now is that your feet aren't too high, aren't too low. Again, it's hard to show, but what I'll show you is when Harren comes down to the bottom, what we don't want to see. We don't want to see, so if it just goes down nice and slow, his knees coming too far over his feet, because that's going to put way, way, way too much tension on the knee joint, and it's also going to probably make his hips lift off the bed. So what he wants to do is drive back out. So what we will often do is focus on knee aligning just above the foot while your hips stay pinned into the bed. You'll literally know when you get into this machine. The main focus here is when it goes down, he's going to inhale and breathe in as tight as he possibly can. So he's going to go down, in, tight core, drive out. If you go into the bottom of this movement and your core's not tight, you're going to lose all your power coming out the bottom of it. One thing I'll say with this is, as you can see, Harren has got a little bit of a slight, more squat focused. So basically, you can either come into this where you've got a little more of a neutral foot position, which is going to be predominantly directly onto quad and focus on as much flexion as knee as possible. And then again, you've got which is more of like a whole, well, I wouldn't say whole leg, but a bit more of like a actual squat replication where his knees are slightly turned out and feet are slightly turned out. So again, as you can see, he comes down, exactly replicating the squat, core tight, driving out the bottom. And again, a last tip as well, you've got to make sure your head's in a really tight position with this one. So you don't want to be seeing your head moving around or your shoulders moving around. Everything stays tight as possible. But as a rule of thumb, the most important thing is to make sure you've not got too much pressure on your knee joint, your hips aren't coming off the bed, and you've got no movement for the rest of your body.